Joker 2 Folie Deux is a bit weird because it hates you, but possibly hates itself even more for ever existing. And that, dear viewer, might be the best way I can prepare you on how to approach this film in a way where you can, if not enjoy it, then appreciate it for what it's trying to do. Confession time, I went in spoiled, and I was still disappointed. I thought that by taking on other people's criticisms, I could wear them like armor and deflect whatever the movie did to me. I read spoilers, watched reviews, hoping to preempt disappointment. And yet the 2-hour, 18-minute reality was still somehow worse. What a disaster, critically, commercially, financially. There have been a lot of Jokers, especially in the last decade. But this take is unique in separating him off from Batman, a bit like the Gotham TV series, marking it as distinctively pre-Batman era, having him as the central character on his own terms. Still, the way to get through this film, I think, is to understand what it's trying to say, or else you'll only have the monotony of its plot to focus on, not a winner. I knew this wasn't going to be the rousing ascension of a crime lord that some fans of the first film expected. I thought it would be a sad medley of show tunes and the gradual realization that the real Jokers in society are whoever we choose to say they are. But what I didn't anticipate was that this could be interpreted as a film about the absurdity of being made to create a sequel against your will. Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix didn't want to make a sequel. They said as much back in September 2019. I will do anything Joaquin wants to do, and I would. But the movie's not set up to have a sequel. We always pitched it as one movie, and that's it. The only thing that changed were the number of zeros Warner Brothers were willing to add to their paychecks to guarantee it happened. They quadrupled the budget of the first film, but earned 4/5 less. This time, it's a musical. Sort of. Studios know audiences often don't like musicals, so rather than original songs, it's familiar jukebox ones that don't move the needle of the plot. Slow down, like hold music you can't wait to end. Lady Gaga's co-star header is Harley Quinn, probably the most successful modern character to come out of the Batman universe, joining Joaquin Phoenix's protagonist Arthur Fleck. The pair of them drifting through scenes, mostly set in the prism of Arkham Asylum, a perfect metaphor for the studio's caging of Joker, where he can simply exist on public view without needing to engage. The canary in the cage that they literally make sing. Surrounding them are the supporting patients and Joker supporters, who I think represent the fans of the first movie. The guards and lawyers stand in for the studio execs, and Joker himself becomes a metaphor for Phoenix and Phillips, cornered by their circumstances and reluctant to play along. The guard's constant badgering for Arthur to tell us a joke, have you got a joke for us today, is incessant and surely resembles the studio hounding the director and actor for a new movie. They're only interested in monetary gain though, as revealed when Arthur gets asked to sign the biography written about him. Arthur intentionally ruins the inscription, writing, "I hope you get cancer." It's a small scene but a metaphor for what they're doing with the movie. The studio believes just by getting him there, they'll have a financial boon. So Arthur, as the Joker, does the most meta Joker thing possible and tanks it deliberately with off-color bite. In the first movie, Arthur's actions had a sense of agency. This time, he's passively shuffled from one setting to another by guards, reduced to a character who's only there to be observed. He's maneuvered by others, from choir practice to meetings with Lee Quinzel, who's schemed her way into his presence, to finally being put on trial. He's merely riding the conveyor belt of this world they've created. His interest is what being a directionless societal pariah looks like. It's only in the third act when Arthur finally gains some agency by representing himself at his trial. Here they explore the idea of the Joker. Is it a shadow self spirit, or is it an excuse for blame? And as he takes responsibility for his actions, rejects the Joker persona, and attempts to connect with Harley as a human being, not a figurehead of chaos, she and everyone else, remember the metaphor for the general viewing audience, literally abandon him. This character pivot is perhaps the film's biggest departure from the first film, where he emerged as Joker triumphant. This is Joaquin and Todd saying he was never the character people thought he was, and he's done playing up to it. The idea of Harley's baby is briefly floated, and if Harley is partially surrogate for audience, the main characters see the baby idea as a road with two forks. To Lee, it's her tie to Joker and her shared meaning with him. For everyone that got a little bit too invested in the first film, Arthur sees it as an escape route, a way to move himself onto something other than the Joker, perhaps being a parent, perhaps someone who could actually have a quiet life. The pregnancy is an emotional manipulation lie, of course, a promise for a future that will never be generated or come to term. There was no Joker, and there is no baby. Their relationship ending on the stairs from the first film, an iconic location, is now the backdrop of their separation, where we as an audience are on different wavelengths and need to abandon him. Lee ascends the stairs away, whereas last time Arthur danced down them. We're now complicit in the creation of the Joker because we're not interested in Arthur if he's not going to play up to the part we put upon him. It's similar to what happens in the first film, where various people who should have helped didn't. As the supporters, the audience, leave, the studio, the guards, quickly begin orchestrating a reboot, setting up a hit on Joker in a liminal corridor connecting places, almost the space between movie iterations. His random murderer is bluntly coded as a stand-in for the audience's idea of who a proper Batman Joker could be, and his merciless act is similar to what Arthur does to Maury at the end of the first film. The idea has permeated, and the cycle starts over. It is demonstrably tasteless and poorly handled, perhaps intentionally so. A dumb verbal joke before the murder, followed by a visual joke after it, that this guy would immediately use the murder weapon knife to carve a smile into his cheeks like Heath Ledger's Joker had. They're sort of implying it's the same guy, but yeah, I don't really want to believe that. It's dark, it's dumb, but this moment is one of the more interesting because it's Todd and Joaquin being totally aware that tonally, their resolution does not fit with the studio idea of a franchise marquee character, and so they would obviously be replaced, gutted on the floor, and left to bleed out. Ultimately, Joker 2 is another Joaquin Phoenix passion project, apparently made for him alone if you go by the damage control articles released following the disastrous opening weekend. They never wanted or needed to make a sequel, so they created one to prove why not. In time, this meta-commentary on the fading audience admiration of previous and even current Jokers will be appreciated more. Media studies students, good luck to you, because you could have a field day with this. Overstuffed with ideas that fail to gel into a coherent story, it's easy to see why audiences so comprehensively rejected it as satisfying entertainment. But if you take it in small doses, an amuse-bouche of Folie, Deux, if you will, there's potential to have a more meaningful time with it. Sometimes the biggest cult classics are the ones that are practically impenetrable. Perhaps Joker 2 is simply too upfront about its disdain for audience expectations, separating itself from its viewers rather than appeasing them. Maybe it will find a niche audience in time. So if you can view it through this lens, you might find a glimmer of positivity here. And if all else fails, make sure you fast forward through the songs.